Hey everybody, it's Liz at Connect for More. I'm really excited to introduce you to a colleague of mine here in just a few moments. As always, we're going to be talking about courage and connection in this conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy our guest, Lisa. So I'll turn it over to her to share with us her leadership journey. So, Lisa, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a while, actually. So
Yeah,
appreciate it.
me too. Well, so we ask all of our guests, just tell us a little bit more about your leadership journey and kind of what
Oh
brought you
boy.
to today. And I know you have an interesting backstory, so lay it
How
on
much
us.
time do we have? Um, so I'm that person who's done 8 million jobs. And actually I think every single one of them has um contributed to my leadership role because I think it's allowed me to be exposed to and in different situations. So it allows me to really feel comfortable in all conditions, if you will. But I've sold fishing equipment in, the 6 lower states here in the United States. I've been a liquor distributor. I ran their art department, their marketing department. I worked with my family. That is a podcast all into its own. Um, my mom and stepdad had an engineering and inspection firm, and I ran that company until the downturn of the housing market. And then, that was kind of when social media first started its own thing. So I started doing that and actually started my own little firm, and then merged with a couple friends of mine, and we had a firm and did that for a long time, and then sold the company and started my own speaking business also while working with my wife who owns a construction company. So so add that all together and that's, equals where I am right now.
So, Lisa, I love that you were saying that you worked for your family because that to me feels like an effort and courage. I don't think I could do it. So
It didn't seem like it at
I love
first,
that you
but
shared
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think, and I'm also not a Fisher person. So working within, hence calling it Fisher person. I'm like, that's not accurate. So yeah, would just there's a lot of courage, I think, in that. And as you said, leaning into public speaking in your speaking career, when I think about speaking, we actually make a joke about fundraising that it's, public speaking is one of the number one fears, followed by death, then fundraising. So
And I
I
think the zombie apocalypse is in there somewhere too, I think.
yes, yeah, I mean
Yeah.
maybe that's like 4 or 5 now. Zombies keep
Mhm.
moving up on
Yeah, yeah.
the ranking scale of scary things that may happen. Um, so thinking about the word courage, though, we always like to get a definition from our folks that we're talking to. But how do you define courage and how do you think it impacts the work that you do?
Wow, that's a great question. I would tell you first that I don't think I'm a very courageous person, but if I look at it, I think we all exhibit courage every day on a consistent basis, really. I think something I neglected to put into the job thing was I also was a touring musician for many years, and getting on stage initially in front of, even 12 people, it was pretty dang scary. Um, but I think courage is different for everybody. I think we all have different fears. I think we all have different phobias. We all have different things that are hurdles and challenges. And I think courage is having those things, acknowledging them, and then doing it anyway, whatever the fear might be, whatever the, you know, I mean, last year I went, we talked about me being in Utah, and last year I went and did mountain climbing. And I don't have a fear of heights, but I have a fear of having old bad knees.
Mhm.
And I was really afraid of this one hike because it was for a little bit more experienced people. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then I just basically said, all right, I'll do it and see, I'll see how far I can get, how far I can get. And as I would get to a certain level, I'd go, okay, I'm going to go there now, and so on and so on. And I ended up doing it, even though I was really having so much anxiety about it. But after I did it, I was like, I can do anything,
Yeah.
and I have kind of taken that on and said, all right, what else is it that I'm afraid of, that I have anxiety about? And I keep remembering that and saying, whether it's something physical or something job wise, or something leadership, or starting a new business, or whatever it might be, I think we limit ourselves, and we think we aren't courageous enough, and really we are.
Mhm. I think that's that I think hits home as well. For me, that idea of courage is different for everyone, just like our fears are different, right? They're unique and individual. But I love that story about stepping into, one step further, right? I tell a lot of the folks that I work with, myself included, what is the next right step? You're not going to know, at the end of the marathon or the end of the race or even the end of the climb where you're going to end up. But what does that next right step look like? And the courage only needs to be in this moment.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important point, and as far as how that impacts your work. And I love the rock climbing. I don't think I could do it. I didn't think I was scared of
You
heights.
could.
I might. I didn't think I was scared of heights until Busch Gardens. And then I was like, oh,
Well, that's riding a ride or something.
yes.
No, that's different. I don't have the courage for that.
Yeah. So I have the courage, or at least the fifth grader that makes me do that. So, so thinking about courage, I know a lot of your work is focused on transformation. So why do you think people are, kind of hesitant about change or fearful of change? And then what are some examples that you've been able to see of courage or connection that have helped people push into that?
Well, again, I think I'm also the queen of hating change. I've never liked change. I'm one of those people who's like, if I do this and this, then this is going to happen. And when I wake up in the morning, here's my plan. And if you knock me off my plan, and guess what? That's life.
Right.
I mean, we make plans. I mean, how many times have you made a plan that it just hasn't? Thank you, dogs. That, I think that I have learned to, I'm not going to say embrace change, because I don't think that would be accurate, but I've learned to manage change. Because I think for me, change is scary, and change it's the unknown. And I'm trying to look at change now as,
Could you try again?
did you hear Siri?
I did. Hi, Siri.
Thank you so much. We love technology, don't we?
Yeah.
I think for me, change is, it is scary, but I also realize that change is like, I didn't know how to ride a bike when I first learned how to ride a bike. And that was something scary that I didn't know how to do. And then I realized after I learned how to do it, how much I really enjoyed doing it. So I think about that and I say, okay, what else don't I know how to do that I might be afraid of, that is different, that's going to change, that's going to be something different, that's going to change the way I do things, but that I actually might really like. And so I'm trying to be comfortable with change. I think I don't have to embrace it, because that's just not me, but I can be comfortable with change, and I can acknowledge it, and I can understand that there's an opportunity behind that change.
Yeah. I like the way that you said not embracing change, because I like, as we began our conversation before recording, just calling BS on a few things. I think embracing sometimes that's not my nature either. So I appreciate that permission that you've even just given me in this moment, that I don't have to embrace it, but I can lean into at least some moment of it. And that bike thing hits home as well. I retaught myself how to ride a bike, and as an adult, you're like, whoa, this is scary. And then once you get going, you're like, no, this is fun, and I need more of fun and joy. And so I think that component of leaning in is just a really important reminder, as you said, of courage and change. And gosh, as we record this now, it's 2023, right? We're about a month out from the third anniversary, pandemic versary, right? 2020. And I think over the last even 3 years, how much change, right?
I mean, consistent, always ever changing. I mean,
Yeah.
businesses, the way businesses run has changed. The way people interact with people has changed. The being in your home has changed. Your office has changed. Your kids' school. I mean, there's not anything that I can think of that hasn't been touched by change.
Yeah.
So, if I was, the whole point of the embracing, I can't embrace all that change. That's just not, I don't think that's realistic. At least not, I'll speak for myself. That's not for me. That's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer of less is more. And
Mm.
sometimes I have to make things smaller to do more, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah,
have to, break them down into steps and take on what I can take on right now. I don't have to take on the whole world. That's just too much for me.
yeah. It's interesting as you're talking, I'm thinking about managing change and creating a sense of control in what you can take on. So it's both the words that have come up for me are control and boundaries, and control in a good way. I always say, being able to have my calendar, color coordinated and segmented. That makes me feel good. It drives everyone crazy, but me. But for me, it helps me manage the ever changing, and it's never the same from, morning to afternoon. It's always shifting. But that idea of creating some sense of control over what you can address and what you can change. But then to your point, knowing and being very self-aware of like, I don't have it in me to do more change, or this is the change that I can't deal with today, maybe tomorrow, or maybe in a month from now. So I
Or
think that,
maybe never,
yeah,
honestly.
or maybe never.
I
Yes.
mean, if we're talking about courage, I think courage is also knowing what's not right for you and being okay with saying, I'm not going to do that, even though you might be getting pressure from people to, well, you should do this, I mean, I can remember getting pressure to ride roller coasters when I was a kid, and I'm like, not doing it, don't like them, not going to do it, and being ridiculed because, oh, you're a scaredy cat. And it bothered me when I was a kid. It doesn't bother me now. But nobody also ridicules me for not riding roller coasters now.
I was gonna say, I don't know that you'd get ridiculed now, but
Probably not. But I guess I'm mapping that onto, like, I don't, like, if my friends give me a hard time because they're doing something that I don't want to do,
right.
I don't feel the need to succumb to peer pressure and do it. If I really truly deeply feel like it's not for me, I'm not going to be forced to doing something else. And I think that's also courage as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important example of courage walking, right? I think there are a lot of folks, as you know, I have an age range of 9 to 20 children in our household. And so there are a lot of folks that don't believe me that after the age of 20, peer pressure is still alive and well, and so we have the idea as we continue to grow wise as individuals, to make that decision of saying, I'm going to stick to my values and I'm going to stick to what works for me, you
Mhm.
know, love you, appreciate you, or I need to love you and let you go, or
Yeah.
some semblance in the tween. But as you said, the courage to be able to stand in that and kind of stand in your own values. So I think that's another really important point when we talk about authenticity, right? And knowing what feels good for you and what feels right for you. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So I know, you're asked to speak on a lot of different topics, and I know you and I have had the conversation about you're not the typical keynote speaker. So I want you to think about the things that you're most asked to speak on, and think about how they relate to courage. And within that, what are the three maybe tangible ways? If somebody says, you know what, Lisa, that's great that you can climb a mountain. I can't even get my foot out the door today. What are those three tangible steps that folks can do that are going to build courage within their work or life?
Sure. So the one topic I get asked to speak on the most is goal setting.
Mm,
And I always tell people, I actually have been incorporating that mountain story into that presentation because that's a goal for me. And what I explain to people, your goal, like, I want you to think about your goals, not your boss's goals, not your mom's goals, not your husband or wife's goals, not your kids' goals. These goals are for you. So I want you to be selfish and think about what those goals are. And then, I think that people think that like, they don't, if we're going back to courage and change, like, people are really happy in their lane.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to veer off. You know, some people do. I'm not going to make that generalization, but people are really happy in their lane, and they're also really comfortable in the day-to-day in and out sameness. And so it's really funny because when I do that goal setting presentation, I give them like 2 or 3 minutes. I say, write down 10 goals right now. And some people can't even come up with one. And I'm like, listen, you're not alone. You're not the first person who's never come up with a goal. And we work with them and I say, all right, what are some things that you want to do? Like, I'm like, what do you want to learn a language? Do you want to take a trip? Do you want to read a book? It could be as simple as that. It's whatever the goals are for you. And I think people think that a goal has to be this grand thing. And, yes, mine was climbing that mountain, but I mean, another friend of mine's goal is climbing Mount Everest. I don't have that same goal.
I think
That's
we
good.
have that friend, and I'm like, no.
Yeah,
Like,
and
high
I'm like,
five, but no.
I don't need to climb Mount Everest. And so I think that people are scared to really put themselves first and be selfish and think of things that will make them happy. Like moms are always like, well, I have so much on my to-do list. I can't get my goals done. And I'm like, well, but you have little snippets of time where you can work on your goals. And I think they feel more comfortable. And again, I'm generalizing. I'm not a mom. I have 4-leggeds. They don't ask me to borrow the car and take them to baseball practice. But I think it's okay to be selfish, and I think it's okay to take time for yourself. I think you actually become a more complete human being, maybe a nicer human being, maybe a more courageous human being, even, if you will, if you are focusing on yourself sometimes.
Yeah. I hear a few things. Obviously, make a list, but I'll be honest. When you said 10, I was like frozen myself. And I do this work, right, with goal setting and leadership. And I was like, 10, I don't know. So I definitely understand that courage butting up against like 10. Oh, I don't know if I could even do one. But I appreciate what you're saying about putting yourself first, because I think a lot of the folks that we serve in the nonprofit sector, whether they're parents, whether they're board members, whether they're clients, making sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. It's not that you take care of yourself over others all the time. It's that you also put yourself in the running for that attention.
Sure.
So making sure that you're taking the time, you're making a list, and that you're taking the time to put yourself first and prioritize your, whether it's, you call it mental health, whether you call it courage, well-being. But I think that's a really important point as well. So thanks for sharing that. I think if I ever did, put 10 goals in a crowded room, I'd be curious. Now I'm curious what that would look like in a crowded room. So I may try that in my next training, but 10 goals, everybody. But I think you prove a point with that, right? That we have, maybe some of us, myself included, have a visceral reaction to that.
Yeah.
But that's also the point, right? Of doing the process of making goals tangible instead of Everest. Maybe it's, I'm going to keep a clean office today.
Yeah. I mean, it's different, just like courage and change are different for everybody else. Those things are different for everybody else too. We're all different people. So every single thing is going to look different for every single person.
I love that. I love that idea, that concept of individualized courage, just as we talk about individualized fears, but the idea of, what our call to courage is so individual to each of us. I think that's it's a nice reframe. As you and I are talking, it's a nice little reminder. So as we kind of wrap up our conversation around courage and connection, what's on the horizon for you, and how can those that are watching this and those that are supporting Connect for More, how can we support you in your work?
Well, obviously I want to be hired to speak more. That's for sure. But I actually have a foundation that I'm very passionate about. It's called the Small Magic Foundation. And once a quarter, right now, this is how it's structured. Once a quarter, I give away a gift of something that's changed my life in some way. So at Christmas, I gave away 3 bass starter kits. So a bass guitar and a little amp and the whole kit. I'm actually getting ready to give away this quarter was, because I'm trying to play catch up a little bit, is art. And I'm giving away 2 art starter kits. I'm giving the first one away on Sunday, and then another one probably in the next couple weeks, but we've already done the winners and everything. The next quarter will be fitness, because that's also something that's really important to me. And then the last quarter will be dogs, because I love my dogs.
Yeah.
I will tell you,
Are you
I've had
giving
some.
puppies away?
No.
Okay.
No,
I
I
need to
won't be
make sure
giving.
I stay
Well,
away. So
honestly, I don't know what it looks like yet, to be honest with you. So who knows? I mean, they've kind of shaped themselves by what people seem to need at the time. So
yeah.
who knows? Maybe it'll be, raising money for a guide dog for a veteran. I don't know yet.
Fun.
But and I'm open to expanding. I've had some people reach out to me and saying, "Hey, I have this. Would this work for you?" I'm open to expanding that, but my mission is to change the world, and I think I'm smart enough to know that I can't change the entire world, but I'm also wise enough to know that I can change the world by changing my little corner. And so
Mm.
I've been focusing on how, this is mostly for kids right now. So the art, the music, and the fitness are for kids. The dogs one I haven't quite fleshed out yet, but I want to help people make impacts in their lives. And then I ask them, as part of the selection process, they have to pay it forward.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking for is, it's pretty much self-funded right now. I did have my girls at Spin, the Senior Planners International Network, donated enough money for the art kits in like 30 minutes in October. My wife's company, I might have had a little bit of pull with her, but they donated. We were only going to give one base away in December, and we ended up giving away 2 because she funded the other 2. And so I am looking for sponsors. It is a 501c3. It is, it's not just me and, I'm just giving stuff away haphazard, but the Small Magic, hire me to speak, but also support the Small Magic Foundation.
I like that.
And
It's two-pronged.
yeah, and there's not a website yet, but you can find it on Facebook, or you can just reach out to me and I'm happy to explain it to you. I'm talking about it all the time on social media. So
Yeah, I was going to say, I see a lot of your posts about it quite a bit as I follow you. So, well, I want to say thank you. We will definitely make sure that we provide your information about the Small Magic Foundation and your LinkedIn profile as well, so that people who are watching who want to connect with you can learn a little bit more. But as always, it's a joy to talk to you. An insider, if you've made it this far with us, we anticipated getting interrupted by at least one dog and at least one children or one child. We did okay. So
yeah, we did
I would
okay.
say
Yeah.
virtual high five on that
Yeah.
front. And definitely always a pleasure to talk to you, Lisa. So thanks for
You
your
too,
time
Liz.
and energy today. And again, always appreciate when we're talking courage. So appreciate you, and have a great day.
You too. Thanks again for having me.